Hello and welcome to The Hero Spouse. I'm Kendra Ruth, here to answer one of your questions about marriage and midlife crisis. Today we have an anonymous female left behind and forward-moving spouse. Her bomb drop was December 24th, 2020. Oh, Christmas, I'm so sorry. That had to be very difficult. And her date of marriage is 2002. She has a clinging boomerang who is a high-energy replayer. She says, my husband and I have been married for 20 years. We have 3 daughters, 12, 15, and 17. He's been in a 2-year limerent affair with a mutual acquaintance who is the mother of our 15-year-old's friend. He stayed in our home for 9 months after bomb drop, and he's now lived in a rental property for the past year. He's lived there alone. The alienator continues to live with her husband and kids, but she sleeps over when our girls aren't there and she wants to move in. Although he continues to cycle, hide things, lie, and make terrible financial decisions, we text and talk or see each other daily. 90% of our interactions have been positive and friendly over the past 10 months. And he initiates the contact. So yes, you're right, he is a clinging boomerang, yes. Lately, if he happens to say something rude or stupid, he will apologize saying, I don't want to hurt you. We're listening to one another and parenting as a team, something we hadn't been doing before bomb drop. My confusion comes when he continues to pursue divorce and agree to sell our marital home. Why? Is it pressure from her? Is it financial strain? I can't tell you whether it's pressure from her. You might have a better idea. Why does he do this? Because he's in a limerent affair. Because he may have a good relationship with you, but he has a good, right now, co-parenting relationship with you rather than a good, what do we call it when we're in the home together? Mutual parenting, I don't know, but a good relationship with you that way. He has it because he has somebody else, and he's pursuing divorce and agreeing to sell the marital home. And the other reason is because he thinks he's supposed to. He thinks that's what he's supposed to do. He said, I don't want to hurt you. And right now he feels like not doing that is stringing you along. And there's an awareness that I'm hurting her either way, but I need to rip the Band-Aid off. And I'm not going to allow her to heal if we don't get this over with. Because if he just keeps going, you're just going to fester in it. And so he wants to get that done. Financial strain, everyone's different. So we could be having financial strain. You would probably know that more if you altogether are feeling that. Now, the question I have, and I think the way you've said it is, it seems everyone knows, but the alienator is living with her husband and kids still. So she's an at-home, possibly MLCer. Does everybody know about the affair? It sounds like they do. You haven't said it's secret from them. And your daughter, I'm going to assume, but I could be completely wrong. Does she know? Because you know. And what is that doing to those families? That everybody knows, and then is her husband, I don't like this word, but allowing or letting her live or sleep over at the apartment with her alienator on her side? Your husband's the alienator. So, and what do you know about what they're going through as well, since you are 2 families going through the same thing? Yes, definitely a clinging boomerang. And your job is simply to continue what you're doing, the interactions, unless he starts cake eating, unless he starts trying to use you as, I want to have a relationship with you and her, and starts to be charming and manipulative in that way. Usually a lot of flirting. You put a boundary up with it. You say, you know what? I want that too. But not, and then you get firm, not when you are in an inappropriate, always define the relationship with some sort of standard as being inappropriate. When you are in an adulterous, whatever words will work with him. Now, that doesn't mean they'll all work with him, but I mean that adultery is actually a biblical term, and there's very specific standards that go with it. So if he's not religious, that doesn't have the same pull. But inappropriate as the generic. When you are in this while married to me, or while trying to be in a relationship with me. I'm not going to have it. I'm not going to do it. But you haven't described cake eating. It could be there. But right now you've just described positive interactions, and co-parenting, which is good. And I want you to keep having that. I want you to keep doing that while you're also continue to show him the grace and compassion and that you believe in him. And as you need to, though, you may need to set up some additional boundaries and still take that. If it never goes to the cake eating, you might need to finally move into that stronger cake eating boundary level just to get him through. And truth darts. I want you to look at what truth darts are. I will try and remember to put a note about truth darts. In fact, I'm going to put it in my notes to you right now as we're talking so I can do that. Add truth dart link. Spell it correctly. So that you can go over the truth dart article I wrote many years ago and think of some examples of truth darts to send. And when I'm thinking of truth darts, I'm thinking of things like very subtly about affairs don't work anyway. You know, yeah, she might move in with you. And how do you think that's going to work? Do you think our children are going to be happy with it, accepting of it? Do you think her children are? What is it going to do to their friendship? Are they going to be just so happy that, oh, look, I've got a home where my best friend can go? No. It could hurt their friendship, or it just makes it really awkward. But how is your daughter going to think about her best friend's mom? That's the woman who ruined her life. And her best friend is going to think about your husband, the man who ruined their life, their family. It's a mutual familial destruction. And so it's doomed from the start because other people aren't going to be happy about it. Other people aren't going to support it. You ruined my life. And forgetting that part then for a while, what are the odds of an affair lasting and going to marriage? Anyway, very, very low. Very low. And what are the, if it goes to marriage, what are the odds that the marriage succeeds? Very, very low. Everybody in Limerence thinks they're going to be the ones. They're not. Just truth darts, and they're one-liners. It's not a whole paragraph where you're going at him. It's a one-liner to zing in, and then you leave it. Sometimes it could be, really, what do you think? Everybody, how do you think that's going to work out? When you and this person who you've conspired with to destroy her family and ours, when you are living together, how do you think that's going to work out? Then walk away. Then I always told Chuck, I didn't say how, I told him how. I told him affairs are doomed. They are doomed. And it was still a one-liner. I had a one-liner that I used saying, the odds of an affair lasting are, yeah, doomed. And then I would take some of her traits because she was an affair down in my situation. And, well, she's done this before, I said. I had no idea. I think she probably had, but I had no idea. So I was trying to get him to go, she's a serial cheater. She's a person who destroys relationships over and over again. And that was working with him in the sense that he wanted somebody who was very pure. It really attracts him. And she was trying to tell him that she was practically a virgin. And so I was going on the other end of that. Really, she's 41. Well, she was almost 41. She's 40. She is divorced. She has a child who lives at home and is working as a stripper. That came out a little later. And from what the pattern of it, it's clear that she's done this type of stuff before. She seems to be very loose, and he'd already told me things like he thinks she's trashy and wants to walk on the wild side. So he couldn't figure out this balance of what he wanted to try walking on the wild side, but he wanted somebody pure. But I knew his weaknesses, where the truth darts would work with him. So what truth darts would work with him. And you don't pepper them every time, but occasionally you send a zinger. It's just a one-line arrow. Okay? A truth dart can be softer also. It can be, what do you think of this? You're better than this. And maybe be specific. But sometimes they're a little bit sharper. I think that instead of right now, unless there's more to it, that might be instead of a boundary of no contact, because he doesn't seem to be cake eating. But I want something to be going in there. And other than that, I want you to just keep up with the interactions if you can. keep them up. Show grace, show compassion. And when you have to go bitch mode off because it's just so frustrating, and vent at him. Don't do it all the time, but it's okay. It is okay. That's a giant cloud of a truth cloud raining on him for a moment, and then you pull back and say, I'm really sorry I did that. I went overboard. I lost my cool, but you know what? Now you know. There are things, these things happen for a reason. I'm back again because the questioner asked a little bit more and submitted it just after I made the last video. So let's look at what else she has to say. She says, I'm completely aware that my husband is lost and deep within his affair and his rebellion. The first 9 months after bomb drop, my focus was keep him home. The focus during the second year was bring him home. Neither of those tactics worked, and I have experienced a lot of pain and frustration. Not only have I watched his every move, I've done things to impress him or draw him back. I've used smart contact throughout our separation, and it works. Yes, that's good. That was probably one of your key improvements. A majority of our interactions are now calm and pleasant. We both feel comfortable reaching out to the other, and I feel him softening. As time has gone on, my desperation has dissolved, and I genuinely care about his well-being. He doesn't look well. He's gained a lot of weight. He looks disheveled, dark circles under his eyes. My 12-year-old reports that he doesn't sleep, yet he tells me he's happier now than he's away. He's happier now that he's away from me. I think that is part of the script. They seem to say that even when it's clear that it's not true. He says that he's considered coming home, but others think he'd be crazy to do so. There's a little bit more. I'm going to stop and ask something about, or make a comment about that. He's considered coming home, but also right before that you said, he says he's happier now that he's away from me. And the reason he's giving for not coming home is because how others would feel. Oftentimes that's family. Oh, you're crazy to go back to that. Well, if he's happier away from you, why would he consider coming home? I don't think he's saying that he's considered coming home because of duty. Then he might in some ways be more motivated to do it, but more sullen about it and resentful about it. But it's more something that he fantasizes about. Like, I wish I could do this, but no one would accept it in my life. And so that is discongruent with, I'm happier now that I'm away. Not only that it's discongruent with all of the things that you have seen and experienced in him, the signs he exhibits of not being happy. She goes on, my husband has done everything you mentioned in previous posts. He's lied, cheated, blamed me, blown through his life savings, and abandoned our marriage and our children. Check, check, check. Midlife crisis. He's the complete opposite of the man I married and built a life with. He's selfish, immature, and impulsive. I just keep coming back to why. Why is his life now a mess? He's lost his job, the respect of mutual friends. He has no family support. His children don't trust him. He's broke. He's unhealthy. And I really like what you say here, because this is what I sometimes feel. Yet he's my mess, and I love him. My supporters love me and want me to move on. Through it all, I've never once thought of walking away. And it's a personal choice. It's okay if people choose to walk away, but it's okay if you choose not to, and you don't even have a doubt in your mind. And I like that you said, he's my mess and I love him, because Chuck and I don't have a perfect marriage. He has a panic or an anxiety disorder, and it is very difficult. But he's mine. And I look at that sometimes and think that there are a lot of people that might not be able to handle it or might not put up with it, especially with the 5 kids. But he's mine, and I love him. And I have love, I have duty, I have all of those various things commingling and going together. And they all make it stronger. It's okay to be duty bound. But without the love bound, there's going to be a problem. And love isn't enough. You strengthen them by having them together. They knit together for a stronger bond. So I really liked that. You keep coming back to why. I mean, his life is a mess. Why does he keep doing this? Why does he keep going on in this? Your bomb drop has not quite been, it hasn't been 2 years. So if you've watched the videos or read the site, oh, I'm sorry, there's more on the next page. Let me go on. Hold on. Let me go over what I was saying about bomb drop. With only 2 years, he's not going to be at a point where, why is he not changing his mind? Why is he not coming through? He's a clingy boomerang. So he cycles and changes his mind back and forth, but there's never any solidity to that change of mind. And so at this point, why doesn't he change it? It hasn't gone through long enough. So hold on. This is more on the yes, he's my mess. She says, he's my person and he's hurting. My heart aches knowing I'm moving forward and leaving him behind. Will he ever wake up and catch up? For as terrible as that last 2 years have been for me and our girls, I know he has it worse. Why move toward more destruction? Why push for a divorce when separation hasn't been good enough? I just don't get it. We have definitely reconnected, but reconciliation seems so far off. You're doing the right things because you have seen improvements. The problem that we have when we see improvements, we think, okay, we're headed toward the end. And of course, on a 1,000-mile journey, if you're 200 miles in, you still have 800 to go, but you're headed toward the end. Headed toward the end, when you think of it, though, you think that means close to the end, which of course is a relative term. You're not close to the end if you're on a 1,000-mile journey and you are 20 months in. And if MLC lasts 3 at the low end, and I mean low, to upwards of 7. So 20 months in, and you're looking at a minimum of 36. You're barely past the halfway mark if you're going to have a short MLC. And just on that timeline, that's why. He hasn't progressed through. He hasn't been through it long enough to get through liminality. Or liminality can fade and be gone after 12 months, but it lasts up to 36. It can last longer under certain conditions. It doesn't sound like he has those conditions. It's a public affair. But when it's hidden, it can last longer. And by hidden, I mean that nobody knows. You know about it, so it's not hidden. Even if you're the only person who knows about it, it's not hidden. So he's pushing for divorce. He's pushing for separation because he hasn't even gotten through the halfway hump where he's maybe on a downhill. You're doing the right thing because he's a clinging boomerang. You see some of the what feels like progress, and I'm not saying it's not. It is, but he cycles. So you're going to have those positives. I often said with a clinging boomerang, especially a severe one, everything felt like a touch and go, a reconnection. It just was constant. Your smart contact and the changes that you made from first your focus of keep him home and get him home. The first year and then the next part of it. Your change has made a change in that. And so you have started to see improvements in how he is responding to your influence of smart contact, neutrality, being gracious, trying not to pressure. He is being responsive in the sense that he feels more safe speaking with you and interacting with you. Your job now is to maintain it and sustain it. He, for a while, was probably wary of it. Is he still? I don't know. But, wow, she's being really nice. When's the other shoe going to drop? Well, I'm being so bad. This can't last long. Maybe she wants something, so she's being nice. Then you keep going with it. And then you keep going with that nice being gracious through monster and through additional storms where he really throws it at you. And you are a steady force of gracious, compassionate kindness. And the hard part is not to be on the doormat during that. And you'll fall sometimes. But in general, steady and stable force, that means boundaries. those boundaries keep you off of the doormat. And it's okay when we fall, because we're gonna, but we get right back on. The reason is it's just not been a long enough time for him to process through his midlife crisis. Now, if you want to know why the time, I recorded another video that just went out, and that video is about that. It is, hold on, let me look at the title, because I just recorded it recently. I think it went out and I believe it is Hows, Whys, and What Ifs. Watch that video, and it's a longer one. And in it, we talk about how I might know some of the things and why time is so important. And that might help you to understand. And further, if you haven't done Understanding Midlife Crisis, the course, take that. If you have, and you need a refresher, go through it. Go read the articles. And the articles, there's a few hundred at the main site and at the blog. Because one of the things people have said is, I read them the first time, and then when I read them again, I understood them better, or I got something else from them. Or some of it's just needing a refresher. But what I'm told from others is that when they read them at later stages, they get a deeper understanding of it. Some of it's probably validation because now they've experienced it. But there's a deeper understanding of what is happening. When you read them in the beginning, you're just so panicked that you're trying to latch onto something. And some of it you haven't experienced yet. So you might like, well, that's not going to happen to me. And that's not going to, oh my gosh, are you kidding? And then you go through it and you've experienced it, and it validates and confirms these things. And now you have a deeper understanding from your own experience as well. So make sure that you do those things as long as you balance it. Don't do so much of it. Like, don't do it, sit down in one sitting. Do little sound bites, because I also don't want you focusing on midlife crisis. I want you to have a firm foundation of understanding so that it can be of service to you, so that it can allow you to feel more relaxed and freer in looking the other way from midlife crisis toward your healing. And that's what's more important, is that you don't get yourself into analysis paralysis, studying so much. And so there needs to be a balance. And do what is the best balance for you. It's different for each of us. I hope this was additionally helpful, and I'll see everybody in the next question.